Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Avatar video. In this one, I'm going to be opening up my Avatar Legends role-playing game Kickstarter package that finally arrived today. So, the day this video goes out is the day I received it, so January 26th. That means it is technically, a day after the retail release. So in terms of as you would expect as a Kickstarter backer to get it before the retail release, that's a little bit of a thumbs down on Magpie's part. Of course, we know they've been dealing with a lot of delays, and at this stage it seems like it's more on just some pretty bad kind of shipping partners than necessarily them. But again, you do have to acknowledge who chose one of these shipping partners to work with. It was Magpie, and so that has to be factored in as well. So let's take a look at the box. You can see here it's a little bit kind of crushed here at the front, which I don't think should be too bad because I don't think there's much height necessarily to these items. Otherwise, you can sort of see that that's on the verge of kind of ripping. Just there's a kind of little cut kind of across here. It's on the verge of ripping. So you can sort of see that the quality of the box isn't ideal. Same here, you can see little kind of nicks on it, and again it's kind of I guess the books have kind of pushed it out again. So again, it just feels like the box isn't particularly strong enough for two relatively big books, and nothing too much on this side. So yeah, let me just kind of open this up and we'll see if we need to fill out the form for damage or whatever. So, because obviously there's been horror stories from mostly, I think it's people in the UK and Europe, just because it's the combination of they're using ShipBob as their initial shipper, and then Every is being used for the kind of rest of the way for the most part. But it does kind of feel like the main problem is actually with ShipBob, who I think are the ones who actually package it. Sure, I think are having a lot of delays, and that ultimately I'd say the progress of this through the postal system was somewhat slow under them, but that's just the way things go. So the big thing that they should hope to change going forward is definitely they need to change who they use if they're doing international shipping. So anyway, okay, here is inside the box now. So you can see here, there is some paper that actually seems okay. So this was sort of just there. That's an alright amount of paper. I think that's better than I think some people were saying. Some people were literally just saying it was almost like a flat piece of paper just sort of put over the top. That at least did something to, I think, protect, because again it was kind of crushed a little bit on the top. Protect against stuff. But anyway, first item is this is the standard dice bag. This is not the deluxe one. And I didn't go for the deluxe one because I thought the initial deluxe dice bag looked terrible, because it was just a plain color. And sure, it was faux leather or something like that, but I felt like this one just looked nicer from an Avatar perspective because it has the element symbols and they're kind of sewn in the colors that match the elements. That to me looks a lot better overall. You can see Avatar Legends, that's pretty nice, and this obviously closes up quite good, definitely. So obviously going to use that, of course, because open up the dices, put them in the dice bag. But again, I think most people who've got the higher tiers are kind of saying that kind of actually prefer the basic dice bag overall. Next up, we have the cloth map and the White Lotus tile here. So these are both in little kind of plastic bags, which makes sense, to protect them. So we'll do the White Lotus tile first, because this seems to be one of the most controversial kind of things. I do think it's a little bit smaller than I expected. I know they told us what the dimensions of it were, but just seeing it in person for the first time, because I actually, in the grand scheme of things, haven't seen too many pictures of this stuff. That's one thing I wish that they did over the course of the campaign, is show more pictures of the physical product. I think they only did it in like one post overall, and then it was kind of left for everyone else to do other pictures. But here is the White Lotus tile. As you can see, it is different from the one they initially advertised, but they posted about it in some of their updates that it was changed because of basically Paramount, Viacom, Nickelodeon, Avatar Studios, effectively. So the licensor wanted this changed from previously the sort of show accurate kind of piece to more of this blue color scheme. Now, for anyone wondering about this, they haven't given the actual reason why it changed other than licensor approval. I'm assuming the actual reasoning behind the color change is just that for, I suppose, modern Avatar Korra era stuff, this is the color scheme of the actual White Lotus. In when Iroh and everyone at the end of the show go into battle, they're wearing blue and white. In Korra, the other White Lotus is wearing blue and white. And I'm guessing it's just that, like, this maybe fits a little bit better, the general White Lotus thing, than that old piece that, like, Iroh used or whatever. Again, it would have been nice if they actually, like, explained that a little bit more. But at least that's the logic I've been using. That, especially because it's made out of plastic and it's not like a wooden piece, I kind of prefer the kind of more colorful scheme. Whereas maybe if it was somehow a wood piece, you'd prefer it to be the more show accurate one. But, you know, I think it's pretty nice. It's the kind of like different colors are done quite well on it. It's the interesting thing is that it's not actually like white. It's dark blue, and then it's just a kind of lighter blue in the middle. But I suppose it's meant to get across that kind of white effect. And then, yeah, the cloth map here. This is the thing I was a little worried about when I first saw the picture of it, just based on like the way it was sewn on the like edges. But there it is. 4-nation map. I have to upside down, don't I? Yeah. 4-nation map. It's really nice to sort of just have a full-on like cloth map of this. But yeah, the sewing on the edges is kind of like, it feels like it's good enough to keep it from like fraying and stuff like that. But it's not particularly like deluxe in a way. It doesn't feel like it maybe should be. I wish it was maybe like just more tightly sewn together, like deluxe kind of like playmats for like trading card games, where it's just a full-on like seam kind of sealed all the way around the edge. It just looks a little bit kind of, this is the one bit of this thing that makes it look a little bit sort of sketchy and not like super high quality, and that like even the stitch here is a little bit loose on the edge. But the actual kind of mat kind of itself, it's obviously not a mouse mat material, as you can see. It's just like a piece of cloth. But it's definitely nice the way it's sort of like printed and so on. So cool to have that, definitely. That's one of the kind of main sort of like reasons you kind of like back the Kickstarter, get the stuff is to kind of get that for sure. Then we have the combat action deck. So it seems like for the most part, I think everything looks like it's here. Definitely have 2 books. So I'll get to them in a second, just because there's going to be a lot of cards to go through with that. Here is the dice set. So this is the standard dice set here. So I think we got everything. I've heard some people say that they haven't got like the right distribution of dice. It seems like I did 2 of each. I think that might have been more with the deluxe dice set, though, that people are getting that sort of stuff wrong. So again, we'll open that up in a second. But in general, I think I like these better than the deluxe dice as well. Especially because a huge part of the deluxe price point was basically the deluxe dice. That was the thing that was like $100 just on its own. I don't think most people are like super happy with the way they turned out, and that they're nice, but not like super amazing. Next, we have our journal pack here. So this is a 5 little journals here, which I think just are kind of like basically just paper. Just little booklets to write stuff in. I forget if they have actually shown off what these look like on the inside. This was obviously part of like the stretch goals stuff, as I think that I think like 4 of the stretch goals were just unlocking extra journals, if I remember correctly. But yeah, let's just quickly open these up. And again, this is part of the Kickstarter. Like, you could like order extra versions of these if you wanted, but you know, it's 5 journals. So let's see. First one is the kind of main cover image. It's kind of like half Aang, half Korra. It's pretty nice. Like the cover has a bit of a texture to it, which is kind of nice. Avatar Legends on the back. And then, yeah, it is just sort of like paper on the inside. Nothing fancy going on there. But the other ones, of course, you get your water tribe symbol, earth symbol, fire symbol, and your air symbol. So, very nice to have them, just if you need a booklet to write anything down on. They're nicely sized, I think. So there's that. Next up, we have... Here is the deluxe core book, so you can sort of see the shine from it there. Trying to get the shine of just the cover and not just the light. It's pretty nice. And then on the back, we have Korra. And they got this correct. I chose Aang on the front, Korra on the back. You had the choice if you went for the deluxe book. And in terms of damage, let's see on the corners here, because this is the main thing here. Nothing of note for the most part. Yeah, I think this got away pretty unscathed. You know, maybe like the slightest of slight, you know, like the corners a tiny bit crushed in, but like nothing like noticeable. So like I think I got away with most of the damage. But the Wan Shi Tong book is on the bottom, so we'll see if anything happened to that. So let's just open this up. Again, we'll get back to the dice pack and the cards a little bit in a second. But yeah, I have been wanting to see this in person for a while now. Just to see what the kind of like effect is like. So yeah, it's not super shiny, but it is very, very nice overall. Like the Korra, you can see the Rava kind of like has a bit of a shimmer to it there. That's a pretty good angle to get a sense for the shininess of it. Avatar Legends role-playing game. Again, this is the core book, just with a deluxe cover. The standard version of the book just has like the main image on the cover and other stuff. But yeah, that's very nice. And then the Aang side is, yeah, just as nicely done as well, with the kind of Avatar kind of Studios art. So that's really nice. And yeah, for the most part, I escaped without any damage. As a quick size comparison for anyone wondering, I just brought Ruins of the Empire Library Edition over, just to get a size for it. So it seems to be a similar kind of thickness, but obviously Ruins of the Empire is taller by a little bit than this. But definitely, like, they look fine next to each other on a shelf, if that's the way you're planning to store it overall. So that's that. And then let's just take a quick look through this. So yeah, print quality seems pretty nice. Let's get to one of these double page spreads. Like there's the Korra one, which is definitely one of my favorite images. And this is where you almost forget, because I'm so used to looking at these books on the PDF, because it's all I've had, waiting for the physical stuff to arrive. So I usually have the pages out to the full width of my screen for the most part. So I'm not used to seeing this organization. I'm used to, like, you scroll down to go to the next page, but then you realize that, yeah, these images are orientated so that they're meant to be beside each other. So it is this kind of double page kind of thing going on with this. So that's really nice to see. What else do we have here? There's the lore section. Gonna be nice to maybe have a read through of that, not just on the computer. And there's the Katara image, pretty nice. Ooh, there's Roku early on in the book. That looks really nice with the way the dragon comes across on both images. I just haven't in the PDF actually looked at them like that. Oh, just there's the Asami double page image for anyone wondering. And of course, like the full rules of the game are here, but of course for me, I mainly got it because of the first section where you have the lore and you have the the kind of annotated map there at the start and so on. But it is very nice overall. Just, you know, seeing it, like, it's it's weird seeing this book that I've actually like spent hours kind of basically going through for like videos and just reading myself, finally having like a physical copy. It's kind of probably like the first time I've kind of really had that. But you can see there's the Water Tribe Kyoshi kind of section of information, which is kind of nice. And then we have a ribbon bookmark, don't we? Or there's actually 2 in it. So yeah, that's interesting. So you can see here, 2 white ribbon bookmarks. So that's good if you need to mark 2 pages. But yeah, high marks on this, definitely. Glad I'm seeing it in person now. I'm glad I kind of went for the deluxe version, even though it was a bit more expensive. Now, One Sheet Tongue Adventure Guide, which, for anyone wondering, this contains all of the extra sort of like Legends characters and what do they call, like playbooks and adventure kind of guides. When we got enough stretch goals, they combined all that stuff into this. You could still have got the separate adventure guides, but you had to like order them separately. But they are in here. That's been one of, I think, the things that I think a lot of people who've backed the campaign have missed, I think. You've seen a lot of people having to correct people on that one. If you haven't been following the updates like super, super closely, if you missed that. Which, you know, it obviously speaks to the idea that, you know, it says in the initial campaign that you get these adventure booklets and you have to read a couple of the updates to find out. And there's a lot of updates, so finding that stuff is a little bit difficult, but people are letting people know what the situation is in the comments, of course. So let's open this up, and again, we'll do the quick damage check. These corners are fine. They're fine. That's fine. And this is, yeah, fine. So somehow I did manage to escape without any damage on my stuff, or at the very least, the absolute minimal, like, minor amount of damage. In that, like, obviously, like, I think if it was packaged a little bit better, like, just anything around the 2 books, you would probably avoid, like, a lot of what you're dealing with. And I think for Magpie, that's probably one of the more frustrating things for them, is that the quality of this stuff is very, very good. And it's clear from the start that they're, like, targeting, you know, like, Avatar collectors wanting this thing. That's why it was so popular. People wanted all this stuff. But then the company they chose just packaged it like it was just stuff instead of it like it was for collectors. And it makes it feel like either Magpie chose the cheapest option or Shipbob chose the cheapest option when it came to the packaging. Now, I think they've got to the point, if you've read recent, especially like from yesterday, some of the stuff they said, they are quite unhappy with the way, especially I think like European, UK stuff has been handled when it comes to customs, the quality of packaging, because you could see there, like, mine was a little bit kind of crushed at the start, had like the potential for damage, but like I got kind of lucky in regards to, like, maybe there wasn't a lot of extra stuff stacked on top of it at any point during its way here, or there was minimal stuff. Other people's got pretty badly smashed because, you know, it's the box doesn't seem like amazing quality, and because like it's basically the width of the book, the corners are right in the corner of the packaging, and if the corners of the package, which seem like they're easy to dent, your book's going to get dented. You can see where a lot of the damage is coming from throughout this campaign, and they obviously have prepared in that it seems like there doesn't seem to be any sort of a limitation on how many people can get refunds, and they seem to be willing to give people replacements even for like relatively like minor damage. So but I like they obviously have enough books to cover that, but it seems like they probably have, I would say, like 10-20 times as many like issues regards to shipping and replacements and lost items than they probably ever planned for, just because of how poor the shipping company has been, because some people have received their packages in bad condition. But anyway, Wan Shi Tong Adventure Guide. It's a lot smaller than the deluxe book. Let me just grab that again. So you can see these two are the same size. Spines are kind of done slightly differently, but you can see the adventure guide like half the length of the deluxe book, of course. So there's that. We actually get the back here with like the barcode and stuff like that on this one. And then this also, does this have 2 bookmarks as well? I think it does. Let me just get to that. No, just the one, I think, here, yeah. So one kind of green ribbon bookmark here in the middle of the book. So that's nice. And then, yeah, what's actually in this, if I remember correctly? So, yeah, you've got the legend characters. You've got a little bit of a Wan Shi Tong information section that really doesn't have as much information as you'd think. But there's a couple of little bits. Yeah, you got the NPC legends, playbooks, and then the different, like, adventures. So the stuff on the library is kind of nice. Let me get to the NPC legends. That's definitely one of the cooler parts of the book. How to use them. And then you can see there, Rangi in like full-on official art. Official style art, I suppose. There's Tagukak from the Roku era. Taka. Of course, we've seen these images before. This is news from last year, obviously. But it's nice to have them in hand here. Then what else do we have here? We got moves. Here's the Kyoshi era adventure. So a lot of people are confused about why they get their package and why they don't have a separate book that is Earth and Root. It's because you get it here. Now, it's because of the way they did the stretch goals, where theoretically, if we had stopped after a certain point, we would have only had a couple of these adventures, but then we got to the point where they were able to roll all of them into one book. So, that's what's going on here. So they're more set up adventures for you if you want to use them. And then towards the end of the book, there's just some extra information. Water and Mist here. So that actually has some interesting Varric backstory and information. And then there's also the created, what are they called? Like the playbook characters. So you can see they're like the Razor. Like this is not a canonical character. It's just an idea of what this character archetype might look like. And again, official art for sort of like, you know, choose your own character, create your own character is kind of nice to see. But yeah, you know, really nice to have, add to the collection, and it has a couple of extra little bits of information, of course. Especially like the Legends RPG kind of like bios for the characters is kind of interesting as well. So that's that. And then, yeah, we'll get back to the things that we didn't quite open up the first time out. So let's get into the dice pack and see what they're like. I have a decent amount of dice. So I wonder what the quality on these is like. I suppose it's difficult to get a dice wrong, but we'll see how it is. So packaging there, and then just kind of cardboard inserts, nothing else, and they're all packaged like this. So interesting, they have like full-on numbers. It's not just kind of like, you know, the dots. So that's that. Okay, it's already sort of open. Okay, I guess we're going to go through this 2 at a time. So, Water Tribe dice here. So, yeah. Pretty nice. Again, I like that they have the symbols. They're using the symbols quite regularly on stuff. So, if you play a Waterbender character, these are your 2 dice. Because I think that's how the mechanics of this game works, is that most stuff requires just a roll of 2 dice to determine kind of what happens. But again, a large part of the reason why I'm not particularly interested in the game is because a lot of the game mechanics do seem to rely really, really heavily on having someone who can be like an amazing GM for you. And just reading through it, it doesn't really feel like, you know, there's as many mechanics necessarily in the game as you would expect, which is a bit of a frustration, perhaps. But anyway, so there we have the earth dice and also the sort of like non-bend. No, wait, that's not non-bender. That is the kind of like engineer kind of mechanical, I think, one. Because, yeah, we do have the kind of other symbol here for them. So that's, yeah, that's, I think, more the mechanical person. Yeah, so that's that. This is the air dice. You can see there. And then difference, I suppose, between air and earth, because they are the shades of kind of plastic, I suppose, they use are a little bit like maybe not ideal, where you can see they've gone for a more kind of muted, almost like dark green, and then the air one is kind of like a kind of light tan. It's almost like brown. Maybe in this case, you wish they'd maybe gone for just more kind of like vivid colors for the dice. But the kind of swirl effect with the kind of like slightly darker, slightly lighter bits of plastic is actually quite nice, for sure. This is where I should probably use the dice bag wherever I've put it. Here we go, under the journals. So yeah, we'll just put these in the dice bag. I guess I'll also put the White Lotus tile in here as well, just to keep everything together. And yeah, I think there's just a couple more of these that we need to take a look at. So that's another air dice, and then we get the fire dice. Relatively nice. Again, I wish it was maybe a little bit more colorful. I'm not the biggest fan that like they're kind of putting like black swirls through everything just to make it darker. But again, the symbol is quite nice. Avatar dice is good. And then what's this one here? Here is your kind of non-bender kind of fighter symbol, which they're also using in the Avatar Generations mobile game as well. So there is that. So overall, pretty nice with the dice. And again, they just, you can actually hold, like, this is a huge dice bag. Like, you could hold probably like 100 dice in here or something like that. It's pretty big. And then the combat action deck. So let's see how this is, because this is probably one of the more mysterious items. Like, unless you've been keeping track of this as people have got theirs, they really didn't show much of this as we went through in terms of explaining what exactly this is. Now, if you've read the rule book, I suppose, and know really, really clearly what the whole combat action stuff is about in the game, you maybe have a better idea about what they mean by this. But at least to me, I was not clear at all, outside of maybe a handful of cards, like why there is like a huge deck of cards for this. So on the back it says it includes 9 sets of stance cards, 1 for each player, the basic techniques tied to each stance card, arts for your favorite legendary characters, 28 status cards to track whether you're empowered, doomed, favored, or more. So, let's open this up without destroying this packaging. And we got cards here. So, straight away, what are we doing here? What size of card is this? I assume it's Pokemon card sized. Yeah, it is. Yeah, so just for anyone wondering, there's the sealed in plastic, and then it's a card in a sleeve, but it is the same size as a Pokemon card, for anyone wondering. For kind of, if you want to sleeve these purposes. So let's see how these go. I believe these are double-sided from what I hear. So let's take a look at them. So, what do we have here? So, actually, let me just get a look at the quality. So, very glossy. So, straight away, that's a little bit different. I'm not used to, like, most card games like this, just having full-on glossy cards. Like, you can sort of... I can't actually see that. For some reason, it's not really showing up on camera. But in person, very, very glossy. But anyway, we have, what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... 7 status prepared cards. And then on the back, these are, so the stance cards are just, oh sorry, I turned them around twice. So, and then on the other side you have status stunned is that effect. So that's what's going on with them. So what was that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Let's see. We have 7 inspired cards, and then on the back it is status trapped with Fufu Cuddly Poops. Then we have status empowered / impaired. So empowered and then impaired with Mako and the gas. Then we have favored here. So we have Kaya here. And on the back it's doomed. And it is Korra, of course. That's definitely a bit of an ominous kind of art choice there on that one. But they're using Korra and Avatar screenshots there, so that's good. What do we have here? The next grouping of cards is Evade and Observe. Okay, so these are the ones where we have... They're all... Oh no, they're all different backings. Or at least some of them do. So you can see here we got Azula... 3 Azula, 3 Amon, 3 Jet. And then on the front of these, you can see here you have like Evade and Observe. So that seems to be the... So we just have like 3 cards that are like Advance and Attack, Evade and Observe, Defend and Maneuver. I think those are the 3 ways you can like choose to be in attack. And it's just like all those 3 things, just kind of like 3 combos of them with different kind of backings on them. I guess just if you have them face down to kind of differentiate between them. But anyway, and then it's just... We have the same stuff, but just with blue. And then different backings again. So again, it's blue, Evade and Observe, and so on. And on the back, we have Aang, Korra, Zuko, Toph, Tenzin, and Suki. Really like that art of Suki, definitely. So that's that. This is one of those ones where, like, you know, like I get it. It's for gameplay purposes and stuff like that. But especially like these cards where like they just put a character on the back. I kind of wish they had just done more characters and just like made it like a very kind of like you have a lot of the cast across all these cards rather than just here's 3 of this one and then 3 of this one. Just because, you know, like, do you really need to make sure that like my set of cards is the ones with Jet on the back when fundamentally they are just like rules text kind of reminder cards? So it would have been nice, I think, if they just used more of the kind of art assets that they obviously have access to, being like an official company. And then your stance cards here are pretty nice. Like these make sense to keep them kind of consistent across the board. But again, I don't think you had to. Like once it says favored, I don't think it really matters what the character is. So, you know, it would have been nice to just see a little bit more variety across the board. But I think that is correct as far as I'm aware in terms of like what the breakdown of the cards is actually meant to be. The thing is, like with this game, is that there's no real shuffling, I think, required. So at most in front of you to keep track of cards, you're going to have like what, 3, maybe 4 or 5 cards. So you know, do you need to like sleeve them up and stuff like that? Not particularly, because there's no shuffling or anything like that really required. So there we have it. So for me, it went pretty well. But I can see just from the packaging here that like definitely it is not the highest quality box or packaging job for what it actually is. In that, sure, the little bit of kind of paper packaging they put in on the top is going to help to a certain extent. But I think because of what the items are, I think the box kind of crushing downwards kind of like doesn't matter too much. It's more of just, you know, you need something along the sides of the books. Like you need like corner protectors or something like that on those books because that seems to be where I think most of the damage is coming from. Now, admittedly, some people are saying their boxes have been so badly damaged that like the corners basically have split open and there's whole like entire holes in the sides of boxes, and that seems to have happened more than just a handful of times, which is obviously not ideal. So going forward, definitely they need to change and get better shipping partners to work with so that this goes smoother for them, because I think they wanted a lot of this stuff done well before this, and they've apparently been in contact with them multiple times, and it seems like Magpie have just been kind of ignored, because they knew that the packaging was a bit of a problem from like mid-December or something like that. When UK stuff started to like ship out, they knew the packaging was a bit of a problem, and apparently were in contact about it, but it doesn't seem like that much has changed. It maybe seems like they've gone from like a single sheet of paper over the top, like basically nothing, to a little bit more paper, but it doesn't seem like there's been any sense of like you are packaging basically collectible books that people really care about and don't want damaged. No real care about that regard. So that's something that needs to be changed. I do wonder what's going to happen with regards to the supplemental books. Now, it seems like they're just happening. Now, I think they were always going to happen once the campaign got confirmed. But we don't really know the full details. They did announce the Republic City supplemental at New York Comic Con, I think it was. And they said that that's coming in the summer, I believe. So again, that is another thing that we have to kind of wonder. Like, with regards to the Kickstarter, how's that working? Because I don't think there's enough time. Because if they're going to be like shipping throughout basically February to do like Asian regions and stuff like that, which have been heavily delayed, they're probably only going to get around to doing like build up to the next thing from like maybe March onwards, April onwards or something like that. So I don't think there's enough time to do a full on just extra Kickstarter. So are they going to give people like a chance to order the supplemental books through Kickstarter? Or are they just going to be like, we did our part, the rest of them are retail releases? Because at least for me, like as someone like in Europe, like sure, they seemingly struggled with the European shipping side of things, but it's better than like the Magpie European shipping options, which I checked just in case that this was going to be a thing, and I just went kind of through the checkout process on like one of their other books, just one, and it was just kind of like, okay, well, what's the situation here? And the shipping to Ireland from Magpie's website is the same price as the book. It's like 30 something euro to ship it here. And that's just not good. So I think I want to see them say something about the supplemental books and in some way like offer it somehow. I don't know how exactly that's going to work, but it feels weird that they are basically potentially going to put people in a situation where you all have the core books and all these cool items, and yeah, just do your own thing with the other books. So we'll see what they do with that, because that would also probably require them to adjust shipping stuff to make it work. And are they going to want to do that or not? Because at least to me, like I wouldn't even know like what stores around here like stock this book, because it's been a bit like, you know, weird how it's kind of all kind of come about. But pretty much going to wrap it up there and just say that, look, hey, my stuff arrived okay. Just another final look at the books here. My stuff arrived okay. I'm happy with it. Am I happy with the entire process? Look, it took nearly an entire year. It was nearly an entire year delay from what they predicted at the start. And yes, some of that stuff was just completely out of Magpie's hands. But I think they could have communicated better. Because this is the thing, I think people are giving them a huge benefit of the doubt because they communicated regularly, but without actually discussing like the quality of a lot of their communication. When it comes to stuff like, you know, like I said, they only posted pictures of the final product once. In the entire campaign, the actual, like, physical stuff that you will actually receive, they only posted that once. And a lot of information is sort of like that, where it's just like, it's over here. And they're not really linking back to it as much as they probably should have, or just like including it again in stuff. I think their approach of being overly cautious about giving people estimates was kind of flawed throughout the entire project, because it became abundantly clear that even if you wait months and months and months to give what is apparently a very good estimate, even that was falling through. And so I would have much preferred that you have regular updates. This is where we're at. This is the current rolling idea of the estimate. Rather than 3 months of them not saying anything and then being like, shipping is going to happen here, and then it also gets delayed. And there's more weeks of delays and stuff like that. So, again, good that you are communicating regularly, but there was definitely a sense where, like, they could have been saying a little bit more. When it came to the shipping stuff, like, it is weird that, for instance, they finally announced who's doing it, and basically everyone in the UK is like, why did you choose this company to work with? Everyone knows that this is a problem. That's a problem. That is a big issue that, like, literally, like, a simple, like, listening to your community in those regions about anything could have saved you a lot of hassle on what's going on here. That's definitely one of those things. And I think beyond that, it is just probably little things like, you know, the fact that they either don't have an answer themselves or are just not giving it to us about, like, why did the White Lotus tile change color? Why did the deluxe dice bag change color? You know, little bits and pieces like that would just be nice to know, that, you know, they didn't really go into much depth on. It's to the point where, like, look, if they offer the supplemental books through Kickstarter, I will order them, because it actually seems like that's going to be an easier way for most, I think, European people to get a hold of the book. Because, again, like I said, the shipping prices on their website are kind of insane, and I don't want to deal with that. But we'll see how that actually goes. We're probably still a few months away from, I think, finding out a lot more about that. And again, a lot depends also on, like, say, we don't even know specifically, like, what's really in the book. So they have to, I think, talk about that eventually. So there has been the video. In the comments, if you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, that's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.